Hello, music lovers. Thanks so much for stopping by this channel and checking things out. I thought I'd go over the set list that Ozzy Osbourne is using on his farewell tour that he just kicked off a couple of nights ago. He's only played a couple of gigs. And I always like looking at the set lists that artists choose when they go on tour. I don't know. Maybe it's because I've been a bootleg collector for the past 25 years or so. I'm very tuned into what people are playing. And I've always kind of liked to look and see, how much of it is old stuff, how much it is new. Are there any covers, songs that they haven't played maybe in a long, long time? It really, to me, is kind of interesting. So some people collect baseball cards. I like to know what the set list is for various tours. I don't know. It's just something I find interesting. It's also, I found, a good way to kind of, if you're just getting into a band, let's say you're, a teenager and you're just getting into Ozzy and you want to know, where should I start? What song should I maybe try to go find? Just go pick a set list out from any tour, and that's usually a pretty good indication of what the artist thinks is really good in their catalog, because let's face it, they're not going to go out and play a bunch of stuff that nobody likes or that they don't like. So you're always going to see songs that the artist likes, and usually it's fairly fan driven too. So anyway, Ozzy Osbourne is on this farewell tour. It's called the No More Tours 2 tour, because you may recall back in the 90s he said that he was going to call it quits, but of course that didn't happen. And so he's saying goodbye to the world tours. He's still going to play a show maybe every now and then. He'll probably still make an album. So this isn't like a true I'm hanging it up, folks. This is just, I'm not going to go around the world and do a bunch of dates. This is going to be it, and it's going to take him 3 years. This thing is going to wrap up in, I think, 2020. So I just thought I'd go over the set list. It's a good way to kind of, see what he's doing, talk a little bit about songs throughout his career. He's opening the show with Bark at the Moon, which is pretty interesting. I'm not that familiar with Ozzy's sets to know if that's a song that he's been doing a lot, but I don't think he's been doing it a whole lot. Pretty interesting choice to start the show off. Then it goes into Mr. Crowley, great early solo track. I Don't Know, another great tune. Suicide Solution. I remember back in the 80s, he got so much shit for Suicide Solution that PMRC was on his ass. Now, the PMRC was this group of parents led by Tipper Gore who were trying to put these warning labels on albums, and they were looking at lyrics and deciding, oh, this is something that needs a label, this is something that parents should be concerned about or whatever. And I remember Ozzy Osbourne basically saying, look, this song is not about suicide, because they were claiming that kids were hanging themselves because of this song. And Ozzy was very upfront about it. He said, look, this song is not a suicide song. It's actually an anti-suicide song. He was kind of writing it in such a way that I guess people could take it wrong. No More Tears is after that. Of course, that's a classic from his 90s period. Then it goes to Road to Nowhere. I'm not that familiar with that track, actually. I can't remember it. Then he goes into some Sabbath. He only does a couple of Sabbath songs on this set list, but they're great ones. He does War Pigs, which in my opinion is probably the best Sabbath song. Like, I love that song. Lyrically, musically, a great track. And it's been covered by a lot of bands too. I mean, if it wasn't a great song, you wouldn't have so many bands from so many different genres covering it. I mean, of course, Faith No More did a really good version of it. Cake, they did a version of it. And I recently saw this band, First Aid Kit. There's this Swedish duo, these sisters, who did a great version of it. And it doesn't seem like it's in their wheelhouse, because they're more of like an indie folk, almost alternative country kind of sound, and they're doing it, and it sounded really good. So good to see that in there. And then he does this medley of Miracle Man, Crazy Babies, Desire, and Perry Mason, which also includes a Zakk Wylde guitar solo. And it kind of reminds me, Miracle Man and Crazy Babies, that's from No Rest for the Wicked, which actually was I've only seen Ozzy once live, and it was from the No Rest for the Wicked tour, which was the first tour that Zach played with him on. Zach was about 21 years old or something, fresh-faced kid, and I remember No Rest for the Wicked, it had some sound issues, like it didn't sound the best, but I thought it had some really good stuff on it. I mean, like Miracle Man's got some great guitar work, and I remember Zach was just killer live, and he's really killer now too. Then there's a drum solo, and then he does I Don't Want to Change the World, Shot in the Dark, which is great. I didn't think he had been playing this much, but apparently he's been playing it live for the past number of years, and that's a song that he hasn't been putting on compilations. I think there's some kind of a dispute he has with one of the writers on that song. He doesn't want to put money in his bank account, so he's been intentionally leaving that song off of like greatest hits compilations and that kind of thing. But I've always loved that song, Shot in the Dark, great song from the 80s. Then of course he closes out the show with Crazy Train before getting into the encore of Mama, I'm Coming Home, and then closing it out with the Sabbath classic Paranoid. So it looks like Ozzy is pretty much, sticking to a lot of the meat and potatoes. If this is a farewell, he's going after his greatest hits, and it seems like he's getting right to it here. So looks like a killer set list. I'm not commenting on the show itself because I really haven't. I've seen some audience shot footage. Looked like typical Ozzy. He's all over the stage. His singing is, it is what it is. I mean, you're not expecting anything great out of it. You're going one last time just to see the man, the myth, the legend of Ozzy Osbourne. So if you can, go check it out. Let me know if you've ever seen him, what your favorite tour has been, if you're going to go see him on this tour. I mean, after 3 years, he's probably coming to your town. He's probably going to play in this parking lot at some point before you know it. So I don't know. Anyway, comments below. Give it a thumbs up if you like it. Hit subscribe, and I will chat with you later.